Before we get into the details, here is the big picture. The Philadelphia metro area is still sitting in strong seller market territory, with just under 2 months of housing supply. That means inventory remains historically tight, even though buyers have become more selective. Hi, I'm Neil DeFranco with the Larry DeFranco team at Elefant, Wisik and Realtors. Each month, I look at what's happening nationally, across the Philadelphia region, and in local markets where our team works most often. At the national level, the main story from February is that winter weather likely distorted some of the early year housing activity. That is an important part of the context. The broader message from the national report is that spring momentum is still expected to build. Inventory has improved from the extreme lows of the last several years, and buyers remain selective. Contract cancellations have also been elevated nationally, which is another reminder that pricing, condition, and preparation matter. So nationally, this is not a story of collapse. It is a story of normalization, with buyers paying closer attention to value. When we bring that down to the Philadelphia metro area, we see a similar pattern. Inventory remains tight, and the region is still sitting at well under 2 months of supply. At the same time, new listings were down sharply from a year ago, which tells us many sellers are still hesitant to come to market. Pendings were also slightly lower than last year, but not nearly as weak as listings. That suggests demand is still there, even if activity has been a bit softer through the winter months. The metro takeaway this month is straightforward. Supply remains tight, sellers are still hesitant, and buyer selectivity is shaping outcomes. Let's start locally with Springfield Township. Springfield remains one of the tightest markets we track. You can still see on the slide that months of supply is still just around 1 month, which tells us that market structure remains very constrained. Momentum improved meaningfully from the weak closings in January. February closings came back much more strongly, which supports the idea that January was more about timing and winter softness than a true structural slowdown. For sellers, the message is still the same. Tight supply creates opportunity, but that does not remove the need for good pricing. The homes that align with buyer expectations are the ones that continue to attract strong interest. Mount Airy tells a slightly different story. The market still leans in favor of sellers, but supply is looser than in Springfield. Months of supply sit in the low 2-month range, so this is still a constrained market, just not as tight. Buyer activity remains present, but it's clearly more selective. Pendings and closings were both modest in February, and days on market remained noticeably higher than in Springfield. That usually tells us that the market is not weak so much as discerning. Buyers are active, but homes that overshoot the market may take longer to find the right buyer. Now let's look at Chestnut Hill. Chestnut Hill remains a small, higher-priced market, so monthly numbers can swing more dramatically. Inventory is still limited, but with a market this small, a few listings or a few closings can move the statistics quite a bit. That is exactly what we see this month. Only a couple of homes closed, so the median price is less useful as a broad signal than it would have been in a larger market. The bigger takeaway here is that supply remains constrained, but pricing precision matters even more in a luxury segment with a smaller buyer pool. So what does all of this mean? Across the region, supply remains historically tight. For sellers, pricing strategy still determines equity. For buyers, preparation creates opportunity. And for the overall market tone, this remains a seller-leaning environment, but one where buyers are increasingly focused on value. If you're thinking about buying or selling and would like to talk through how these trends apply to your specific situation, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next month.